Welcome to Get Serious. Time for another mindset-oriented session this Sunday. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I think pretty much everybody has at least heard of it. It's probably been on my to-read list for, close to a decade. How many people try to, read the classics. I'm not sure if I've really ever taken the time. And what's really determined to be the classic? Does it need to be, 2,000 years old, 1,000 years old? Who knows? Probably read the Odyssey, or at least excerpts of it way back in high school, but, not a routinely classic-oriented reader by my own admission here. But, the hard copy of Meditations is gifted, credit to Dave Deniston when he was at Unconference last October in Italy, so naturally makes sense. You familiarize yourself with history of Rome here, and finally started cracking it open over the last week, approximately. Really not that long of a read, and the English translations are really solid. But steadily been making my way through it, and I think. People know, okay, it's supposed to be like, Stoicism and, general philosophy and so forth. To me, what I wanted to focus on today is just, again, kind of being struck by how consistent some of the just core values and what we as human beings perceive to be important for our own personal growth and society's growth has been over literally 2,000 years. Marcus Aurelius is almost exactly 2,000 years ago is when he was living, and just accounting for his thoughts about life and reflecting on other people within his life, and just the sense of focusing on certain ethics and morals that are important to most of us living today. The generosity and honesty, and not being distracted by kind of superfluous kind of factors within life, and just sticking with your hard work and contributing to society's goals, and not getting too ahead of yourself or being too extravagant. Of course, if you want to do those things, fine. But, in general, I think most of us can kind of perceive that to be a sense of good character, or something to fall back on, regardless of whether times are good or bad. You have the sense to kind of make peace with what your sense of circumstances is. That's like the base of Stoicism, right? There's plenty of criticisms about that, but the underlying kind of ethics still applies so much today here. So that is really what is just striking to me again, which is something I'm just reminding myself more and more often. I know I had talked about in a different podcast earlier about being in the midst of building out this AI coach version of myself and several other mentors and partners and so forth that I can just turn to, because ultimately I still, am more of the belief that we know what we need to do. Again, looking back 2,000 years here, humans, our circumstances have changed, but what we determined to be like good character and a proper way of making decisions in order to live a more productive and peaceful life, we've known this. We've known this for thousands of years. We know it ourselves. Again, generally, it's not a problem to know what decision we should be making, and what plan we should follow. Deep down, usually we can figure that out. If you take even a small amount of time to really reflect on things, it's just acting on those particular decisions and reinforcing that inherent ethical character that you have and that we all have within ourselves is where we get tripped up. That's something I just remind myself over and over again. It's like, you have the answers. You just have to act on them. You don't need to go off and search and think, oh, I'm just missing all. Of course, you want to be educating yourself, and how can I, learn more to fill in certain gaps. But, the real basics, and, even knowing how to accumulate more knowledge, we all know how to do that. So you have the tools that can get you anywhere in life. Pretty much all of us have that, probably by the time we're, I don't know, 15 or 16 years old, can start thinking a little bit more like an adult there. And we tend to get in our own ways. More often than not, I'll speak for myself. It's taken me years and years and years, even a couple decades, sometimes to like really stick on a path to figure out how to achieve the vision that I know I can get to, and share with the people around me and contribute as much as possible. Like, it's just been a constant battle to figure that out. Did I already like know what those steps were to like actually get there? Yeah, it's just acting on it. That was kind of the my own meditation in relation to Marcus Aurelius's meditation. So, if you haven't checked any of that out, I think I had gotten turned away from potentially looking at it because a friend was like, yeah, this is just like so archaic to read. Maybe it was a different translation, but the particular translation that I got, which is done by Gregory Hayes, like roughly 20 years ago, like the English is actually quite easy to read. Like it's really not that difficult at all here, and a pretty short book that you could even spend a few minutes in it and get some real value. So might be worth your time to check out, and again, just like feel that sense of history of where this could have been written today in terms of how to live your life. Yeah, sure, there's like some stuff that needs to be updated, the sense of history here where certain ethics are certainly not in place. There was a general acceptance of slavery and so forth, and Aurelius was part of the problem there, no doubt, but with a big but in terms of how unethical that part is. The kind of general deeper sense of character and integrity and so forth, and how to live your life definitely just comes true, like rings very true to even our much more modern life and AI everything and conveniences around every corner. It's just a remarkable shortening of history in realizing how much we as the human race just have in common with each other and our ancestors. They were all struggling with the same stuff, just different set of circumstances. Something to reflect on. Hopefully this is of interest to you. Looking forward to diving in more myself. With that in mind, seriousland.capital for any of your funding needs. Land Daily Diligence Facebook group. You know the drill. Landpricer.ai for the most reliable land pricing tool on the market. Subscribe and share. Talk to you all next time. Take care. Bye.